Welcome to Bonds After Baby. I'm LMFT Evie Empress, and I'm here to help you and your family relationships experience more relief and connection during the stage of pregnancy, postpartum, and early parenthood. Remember to subscribe for my podcast here and on YouTube, and sign up to my email list on my website, bondsafterbaby.com, for free resources for your family. In this episode, I want to share the regrets that I often hear from couples past the early parenthood stage. My hope is that their grief and now wisdom around what could have been can help you and your family now become more intentional and take agency over this time. I'll end the episode with 3 suggestions on how to start clarifying what you want to experience as a family while you welcome children into the family unit. It can be quite painful to sit with the grief that we can't go back in time, and that what could have been a time of, yes, stress, but also a time of an experience of deep connection and shared experiences in our children's lives when they're young is very sad. I'm going to share one example from a couple that I worked with that sums up a lot of the types of regrets I hear about, and then I'll go down the main points of regret that I hear. So I saw a couple who both experienced a lot of postpartum anxiety and a bit of depression up to 10 months after the birth of their daughter. The wife, after birth, had constant panic thoughts that she wasn't a good enough mother to her child. She had feeding difficulties and just a strain adjusting to the constant sleeplessness. Her baby was quite colicky at night, which made it extra hard to sleep. And she had a lot of mixed feelings about parenthood that brought up shame. Her own mother was depressed when she was a baby and distant when she was a child, and she wanted to be different and perfect for her own child. She would ruminate often on whether her baby felt loved enough or if she was a good enough mother, caregiver, which left her really agitated and irritable. She often heard from her mother that she should just be grateful, right, for a healthy baby and just enjoy this time. And then mom would experience more shame for not enjoying the time as she'd hoped or as everyone seems to be expecting her to be. This made it harder for her to go to her mom with her feelings or fears because she anticipated the same kind of dismissive response, however well-meaning that it was. Her husband would try to reassure her, but it was hard for her to accept the reassurance from her husband because this wall of shame just blocked any kind of sense that, okay, I deserve this or I deserve some grace or help. And she kept him at a distance. She would assume that he also thought that she was a bad mother too, even though that's not what he was thinking. The husband was caught off guard. He cared deeply for his wife, but every effort to reassure her wasn't working. He didn't know what to say. He began to feel incapable of connecting or helping, and this sense of helplessness led to anxiety and irritability. He would get reactive sometimes, and then that would come off as judgment to the mom, which was like this fulfilling thing of these assumptions that she was having that he was judging her. And she would say, see, he does judge me. He hates me, and she'd kind of run on these assumptions. And she would respond with shutting down, which left the husband and really both of them feeling lonely and detached. Then they start avoiding, as months go by, they just start avoiding certain conversations because it gets mean-spirited really quickly. Mom starts to get a bit of depression with anxiety, which further affects her confidence as a parent and really just erodes her enjoyment of being with her baby. Dad is also worried about why things have gotten so tense, but is scared of bringing up conversations because he thinks it'll just make it worse. Because that's what their experience is when they try to talk. It gets worse. This example is specific to, the time in the months post-birth and postpartum anxiety and depression. But of course, these kinds of relationship dynamics can play out for years after that if they're not dealt with, or they can even begin at later ages of the child's life, like 2 or 3. There is no kind of rule about how this presents in families, and it has a lot of variety. But these kind of things of shame coming up and really having a hard time just sitting with natural feelings and then making assumptions about what everybody's thinking and that people are judging you, or that if we talk about things, it's just going to increase attack because that's what keeps happening. These are all just signs that you need help with coping and the adjustment. But when people don't know that, it just becomes kind of a new way of being together. And again, if these kinds of coping dynamics don't get addressed or treated, they can continue for years. So, this is representative of many of the types of regrets I hear from parents down the line. Like one, I wish I would have known what to expect, right? To know that either postpartum distress or just adjusting to parenting is very common, that the adjustment can rock relationship dynamics. Because if there's less of a shock, it means you're more primed for how you might want to deal or resources you might want to reach out to, which leads me to the next regret. I wish I would have known or searched for resources, right? Like, or known to encourage my wife or spouse to get help, like free support groups, a doctor, mental health provider, finding more community in the area. The next gets really tough, right? A lot of outpouring of grief. I wish I would have taken better care of my spouse and myself, right? That I could have shown up in a different way for myself and the people that I love and that love me. But I built walls everywhere. I see so much grief in my office when people acknowledge this and just know they can't go back in time. I wish I could have told other family members what I needed, or that I communicated or put some boundaries on my family members for my spouse. Okay. Because people, when they don't know, they can't address things, they can't change. So giving people a chance of understanding so that maybe they can do something differently. I wish we could have gotten out of a me against you dynamic and really enjoyed this time together. We're never going to get this time back. Even with the stressors and sleeplessness, there is much joy to be had and an opportunity for deepening bonds with your loved ones, with your partner, when a new child comes into the family. And finally, I wish we fostered a different dynamic, a climate, vibe in our house for our kids. They likely picked up on a lot of tension. Okay. Now, disclaimer, it's okay for kids to be around distress and tension sometimes when they see that it gets worked out most of the time. I don't want anyone getting hard on themselves or going into spirals about like a child witnessing a fight one time or something. It's inevitable. I'm really talking about when parents know that it was a daily thing for a long time and that a lot of anger was getting displaced from the spouses to the babies or the kids. Okay. So I just want to offer 3 tips for getting really intentional about your hopes as parents, so that you can have some space to say, okay, what are our choices here? We don't want to be, 10 years down the line looking back and saying, oh, I wish it could have been different. Okay. So, 1, acknowledge that you can't choose what comes your way. You just can't. It could be colic, it could be that you get anxiety, it could be that something comes up with your child's development that you have to deal with. But you can choose how you want to show up for each other. A passive stance, basically a stance where you don't acknowledge that you have choices, is not helpful and it's not true. Acknowledge your choice and your agency. I will clarify and offer a disclaimer that in the immediate postpartum period for a birth mother, they're in a much more vulnerable state with hormone shifts, recovery, and adapting to a new role. So for that specific time, I don't mean this as a pressure for like an immediate, being like having this full capacity. I'm talking more long term. I'm also talking about accepting help or seeking help when you need it, which is an act of love for yourself and your family. And for partners or family members of the birth mother, choose how you want to show up during this time and choose to seek resources if you need them. And of course, this certainly applies to, all the range of ages as parents, not just the postpartum stage. So, 2, if you imagine yourselves 10 years down the line, like if you're sitting with your partner and you're just like, working through this together, opening this discussion, how would you like to look back at this time? What would make you guys proud about how you shared this experience together, how you helped each other feel, how you supported one another? And what would make you look back and go, oh no, like I really wish that didn't happen? Be specific. And finally, Can you take pride in the ways you imagine that you know that you can bring light and love in this time for your family, and name those ways with each other? Notice what your partner can bring too, right? Not just yourself. And also take accountability for tendencies you may have that builds walls between you and your spouse, okay? Or walls between other family members that make things harder for you. Just again to start having some clarity about what you want and what your choices are here. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. If you want all the resources at your fingertips, I'll be offering additional freebie goodies in the near future. And I will also be offering coaching programs, helping parents, giving all my expertise in a very accessible, simplified way with actionable and reachable goals for couples to actually have all this expertise at their fingertips so that they don't have to look back down the line 10 years later and say, I wish we knew, right? So I really want to help families at this stage. I should be launching those, I think, in January. So sign up for my email list at bondsafterbaby.com to get the goods and updates, and subscribe to my podcast and my YouTube channel, Bonds After Baby, so you get notified when there's a new episode. I'm here for you and your family. See you next week. Bye.